Good evening, everyone. My name is Kimberly Snoyl, and I'm a UX designer since the 1st of January. And before that, I was a software tester for 6 years. My background is in human media interaction at the University of Twente, and now it's called interaction technology because I did it like 7 years back. And of course, I'm working at Capgemini, as you can see here. Click. I'm gonna wait before it goes too fast. Oh, yeah. Well, a little bit about myself. Just told you my background. I'm 32 years old. I'm also the founder of Ladies at UX Utrecht, the first logo you see here. Ladies at UX is a bigger community. Some of you might know it. It started in Manchester in 2013 and has since popped up in about 50 cities all over the globe. And I started the chapter in Utrecht. And I've been doing that since 2016. I'm also the guild master of the Usability Testing Guild within Capgemini. And now we call it the UX Guild because it's more than just usability testing. We also focus on accessibility testing. And now, as I will discuss in this talk, user experience testing. Also, I'm the founder of the Test Jam. You might also have heard of that. We're also here on Meetup. Yeah, we've been doing Test Jam since 2017, and there will be a new edition this year. So keep your eyes on the Meetup page. Okay, what I'm going to talk about today: UX testing in Agile development, as the title is of my talk. I will first tell you something about the problem that I want to tackle. I will tell you about the many quality attributes of testing and which one, of course, we will focus on. Some UX testing examples, and last but not least, techniques you can use to really test user experience in your applications. Okay, so as Diederik has just shown you something about how to test the front-end applications, the focus on testing is a lot on the functionality, which is of course not weird, because we have to what we are making has to work well. It has to function, and sometimes they also call us functional testers. Yeah, it's very well known that testers really test functionality. And also the test automation, as Diederik just shown us, is really booming. Test automation is the way to go. If you want to go into testing, you have to know everything about test automation. But I think actually the focus is too much on these things, because testing is not only functionality and test automation. And I want to steal a little bit from the Agile Manifesto. Not as what they have here, individuals over processes, etc. But I want to state user experience over functionality, because you can have good working functionality. It can work like a charm for you, but when a user uses your website, it may be confusing and they don't understand how to use your website, and it may take many steps to finally reach their goals, while it could have been done. It could have been made simpler if you take the user into account. Okay, so yeah, these are a lot of quality attributes in testing. As I just said, we focus a lot on the first square here: functional completeness, functional correctness, functional appropriateness. But there's so many, and I want to focus on usability. So how you can use the product, and if it's user friendly, is it easy to use? Can you reach your goals efficiently and effectively? Is it clear? Yeah, as you can see, we have to do so many things. We have to, as testers, we have to focus on so many quality attributes, as you call these things. But in Agile development, you have a sprint of only 2 weeks. So in these 2 weeks, you have to do a lot. You have to plan your tests. You have to write the tests. You have to test them. You have to retest. Also, you have to make sure that everything you tested the previous sprint and the sprints before that are still working as well, because there can be regression. When new functionality is made, it can be broken when the previous functionality can be broken. So that's why we use test automation, as Diederik just showed us. You have a testing pyramid. You can do unit testing up to end-to-end testing. But this is also some time you need to invest in your sprint for this test automation. And this all has to be done in 2 weeks. So I do understand that the client and also we as testers, we have to prioritize. So in testing, you test, you make your test case in advance, and you think, okay, what are the risks? What is the most important thing I have to test? Because when it doesn't work, we will lose money, or the people cannot reach their goals. So that's why, of course, it must function. The functionality must work well. But as I just said, user experience will get left behind, because people think, okay, you can use it. It can be more effective and efficient, but let's do that in the next sprint or when we have time. So the business might say it's a nice to have. We'll do it someday. And of course, in Agile, fast, a lot of functionality has to be built, and the nice to have, we just never get to that. So what can we do that doesn't require so much time? First, I will give you some examples of what kind of things do you need to think about when I'm talking about user experience testing. And after that, we will go into which techniques, of course. These are some examples that I have come across in my daily life. This, for example, I don't know if anyone of you know this app. It's Optimal Eurosparen. I'm Dutch, and I really love saving things. So when you buy Optimal or Chocomel, or some kind of milky product, I think it's from Campina. I don't know, but anyways, you can. There's a code here which you can enter in the app, and then you can get some points, and you can buy stuff with discount. So this app, I really like it. On the box of the Optimal, there's a code, and the code is in caps lock. So the first time when I use this app, I really pressed this shift button to make my letters caps lock. But after a while, it took me some time that I noticed that if I don't press caps lock, still the letters are in capital. So yeah, it works well. It's good that the letters are automatically capitalized, but the feedback to the user is not so good, because it would be nice if the user knew upfront that when you press, when you want to fill in your code, that you don't have to think about, oh, is it caps lock or not, that you just see that the capital letters are highlighted, and you can just start typing. That would be nice. Not highlighted, but shown. Just like when you have a numeric field, sometimes with the postal code, when you want to type, you see on your phone, the postal code is already, the numeric keyboard is already there. That's thinking with the user, making it easy for them. I really like that. This is another example. I have a little movie of zooming. I'm getting older nowadays, 32, and I see that I really start zooming a lot. So when I have a picture like this, I'm like, okay, what's actually what am I reading here? I want to zoom in, but when I zoom in, sometimes the thing I want to zoom gets smaller instead of bigger. And notice this a lot of times. This is just on Google, and of course, I understand everything else gets big, but I wanted to focus on this. So maybe this is not the best example, but sometimes I have it also with some PDF viewers, that the thing I want to focus on and I want to enlarge, that gets smaller and the rest gets big. So please, when you're testing, always make sure for accessibility purposes that you can zoom into 200% at least, because there are people, older people like me, for example, that when that your eyes just get worse when you age, and you just start zooming. It's going to happen to all of us, and maybe for some of us it's already happened. So take that into account. Let me see, will the next one come? Oh, I have to yeah. And this is the next example. I just moved to the Meren, and my son is 2.5, and he was on daycare in Vleuten. But now I think it's not so far away, but I would like to get him closer at home, so I don't have to bike through the snow again, like a few weeks back. So I had this form which I had to fill in from a Coco daycare. And as you see here, okay, I have to say in this example that later on I saw that it worked correctly, but the contrast is very low. And on the screen I was using, I couldn't see it, but on another screen I could. So people of Coco, if you're here, or people who worked on this application, it actually does work, but the contrast is low. So the contrast could be a little bit better. But let me show you this movie. So you see there are 6 steps, and in the 6th step, I had to fill in an email address. I zoom in a little bit. Where is the field? Click, 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 click. Where is the field? I cannot start typing. Ah, there is it. And it's very far away from the label. So this, again, it's contrast. It is a light gray when you put it on another screen. But yeah, you have to take into account that people might have a bad sighting, so they just don't see the contrast, or their device is bad. So make sure the contrast is better, or just make the field very big. So when you click on email address, you still you already have it highlighted. That's one of the solution you can have. Do I have another example? Those were it. So these are some small examples from my daily life. They're just small things, but that's the thing about user experience. When it's there, you don't see it. You don't see how easy it is to use. And when it's not there, you get frustrated. And this is just what you don't want. You don't want people to get frustrated. You want them. You don't want them to think, "What am I supposed to do? Where is the field?" You don't want them to get confused. You want the experience just to be simple, easy. Just let them go on with their lives, and don't make them spend too much time on completing a task that they have to do. So this is a book, a recommendation, Steve Krop, Don't Make Me Think. I really like it. And this is a phrase I think about constantly when I have such an issue like on the Coco form. Where is it? What do I need to do? I even went back to the form to see how I filled in the other 6 fields, because it's a form. So I filled in a lot. And at the end, I couldn't fit it in anymore. But then on that form, um, I went back to step 1 and I lost everything. So I was so frustrated. I had to fill in the entire form again until the end. So yeah, that was that was necessary if you just make it simple in the first place. Okay, sip. Okay, so these are some user testing techniques I want to discuss. So how can you test user experience? It's something that you don't hear a lot about, and that's why I came up with this talk, because we learn a lot about functional testing, structured functional testing, but not a lot about user experience testing, since it's not high on the backlog, but I think it's very important. So I'm going to discuss some techniques you can use which are fast, like a checklist, and you can just implement them in your sprints. And it doesn't have to take up a lot of time. You just need to be aware that these heuristics, for example, are there. So for example, you have here, you have 10 heuristics from Nielsen and Norman. These are the gurus from user experience and usability. They're very well known in the user experience world, and these standards are also very well known. And when you look at them, they are quite logical, but it's good that you have this list and you can implement it in your tests. You can have them near when you just want to know, okay, what should I think about when I want to test my application? I will highlight some of them, not all of 10, but just to give you an idea of what these heuristics are. For example, the first one, visibility of system status. It's just simple as we see every day in Google Docs or Drive, that when you're uploading something, you see that it's being uploaded. And here at the bottom, you also see 1 of 1 uploading or 1 of 5. You know what the status is and what the application is currently doing. Or something so simple like a spinner. When you're waiting for information to be loaded, there's a spinner, something simple as that. And you might be surprised of how many times it is forgotten, at least in the first round. When you're as a tester developing an application, the first time you might see, hey, what's happening? And then you have to wait for the information to come. Then you can tell your developer, okay, we need a loader. I also recommend this website, 10 usability heuristics with examples. This example I got from this website, but I also have some of my own. Okay, the next. Second heuristic is a match between system and the real world. These are things like stop sign. Red, orange, and green. These are conventions we know. Red is bad, green is good, and yellow is something in between. So use them. These same colors. Don't use red for something that's good in your product. And also UX thing. Don't only use colors. That's also something that has to do with accessibility. People who are maybe colorblind, they don't see if you only make text red. For example, here on Meetup, you see this green check mark. People, so many men, how was it? A lot of men, like 30% of the men are colorblind, or I don't know, 30, but it was a lot. They don't see red and green. So don't make your things you use, don't use color for important information, and always use a color and something else, like an underline or a text to make clear what you mean. The second example is I wanted to let you see the home button. Home is also something from the real world when you want to go back home, back to the base, and that is also the home button in a mobile app. Go back to the beginning, and you see that 50 people were going to this event today. Okay, here's also another example: user control and freedom. I really like this from Gmail, that when you send an email, you can cancel it. So when you are looking at your email you send, and then you're like, oh my God, I forgot something, or yeah, you have to add something, you can undo the sending. And that's something that wasn't always there. It's there for a really short time, maybe already a couple of years, but it hasn't been there always. So when you're sending your message, you can undo. Really cool. That gives users the freedom. Yeah, you feel in control of the website, and that gives you a good feeling as a user, and not that you're how do you say that, subordinate to the website, that it makes the decisions for you. No, you make the decisions. That's what the people want. A third heuristic: consistency and standards. You see here that the home button is usually, or in this case the logo button, is usually on the left hand side of the website. H&M does it in the center, but Nielsen and Norman did a study that when the home button is on the left side, so here they conducted a study where where the participants were asked to make a purchase on an e-commerce website and then come back to the home page. And when the home page is on the left side, 4% made a mistake, or they couldn't find the home page. And when it's centered like H&M does, 24% couldn't find the home page. So that's yeah, quite a difference, 20%. So the convention is use it on the left and be consistent in that. Yeah, also the naming conventions, things you always use in real life, keep using them on the website, and don't use two different names, but keep the same convention or the same name on different part of the websites. Consistency, as simple as that. Another website which I can recommend, UX Gorilla, they give from each heuristic, they give the explanation. Okay, another technique. So we're done with the heuristics for now. Another technique I would recommend is using personas. A persona is in user experience really common. It's a fictional character which represents your target group. So if you have a very broad target group like bol.com or something, everybody, every kind of people, young and old, should be able to buy books there. Maybe not children. But for games, for a child's game for children, your target group is a child, or different children, maybe different ages, and also different genders. So you can fit these people in a persona, so you don't forget who you're designing for and who you're developing for. And my problem with personas, you have different kind, young, old, male, female. My problem with personas is that I've worked in testing for 7 years, and actually I never really used the personas. In some companies I worked for, the personas were on the wall in the time when we were, of course, still in the office, but I didn't have a reason to go to the wall. And the first time I gave this presentation, someone from the audience came with a very good solution to this, is use your personas in your user stories. So for example, you have Charles here, he's 55, and for example, he has to zoom in a lot. So because he can't see very well, as Charles, I want to be able to view the page, blah, blah, blah. But you don't need to tell your team everything about Charles, because your team knows Charles. They can go back to the persona and they know, hey, Charles has an issue with zooming with his eyes, and he also always wants to zoom. Let's not forget to make this functionality work for Charles as well. And so it's implicit in the user story when you say Charles. I really like that idea of Kiki. And the last one, exploratory testing. So exploratory testing is a testing technique also for functional testing, which is very well known in the testing world. Normally we use we have a structured way of testing. So we see which kind of techniques we want to use. For example, for a form, we want to have the syntactical test, for example, or different diagrams. You can use different kind of structured testing. But for exploratory testing, you don't need a script, and that's very nice. You can just anyone can do it. And what I like about exploratory testing, you can do it with the entire team. And I've done this with multiple teams I've worked in, that we just have a exploratory testing Tuesday, and not do an entire day, of course, but only 1 hour of the day, for example, or 2 hours. You take the time with your entire team and you just test without a script. Everyone does their own thing. And you can also have a theme for exploratory testing, like usability. Everybody checks usability, or maybe security, or another quality attribute you want to test, performance, for example. So exploratory testing is a nice way to get a team together on one page, and you always get new bugs out of it. Maybe they're small bugs, but you always get some new information. So I recommend you do this this week or next week or next sprint, just 1 hour with your entire team, and have an exploratory testing session. It's really nice. Okay, so that was it. These are my key takeaways. So don't make your users think. I have the book from Steve Krug in there for you, so please look it up. Just make it easy for them. Use the usability heuristics. You can use them as a checklist. So when you have a website, just check all those 10 heuristics and see if your application or your website is user friendly. You can use the personas in your user stories, which I actually still have to start doing, but I think it's a really good thing. And exploratory testing sessions with the entire team. That's it. So, any questions? Thank you for your attention.
Wonderful, Kimberly. Thank you so much. Yeah, have a well-deserved sip of water there. Well
Yeah.
done.
Thanks.
By the way, if you call yourself old, then I'm in real trouble. So that's maybe a bit early on your side there. But I get the zooming in thing, but it's usually just being detail oriented. It's definitely
Oh,
not
maybe.
for being old.
Okay. Sorry for the young people amongst us. Zooming can also be important.
All right, I have a couple of questions for you. The first one from Xmile, which you partly answered when you said the question is, when should you do this type of testing? Now, you briefly said exploratory testing sessions are a good one.
Yeah.
Is there any other place you would insert this type of testing?
Yeah, I think this is a very good question, because normally, of course, a user experience needs to be done prior to building the application, and this talk is about in the development sprint, in the development phase. So if you have a user experience designer on the team, the need for this testing will be less. That's true. So if you trust your user experience designer, there will be a user-friendly design which has been tested with real users in usability testing sessions upfront. But in some cases, you don't have a user experience designer, and I had it, for example, in Mendix projects when everything should already be user-friendly within the code. So then I think it's important that we as testers or developers or something else in the team, another role, take this user experience role on us. And then you can do it whenever you start testing for every functional user story. Think about it. So when you start making your test cases, or when you see the application in the refinement sessions, already think about it. You have this head on the entire time, the UX head.
All right. That's awesome. I have another question here from Wim Zayer. He's asking about something called a cognitive interaction. Is this something familiar to you? It's asked in reference to designing a website.
Maybe he means a cognitive walkthrough. Cognitive walkthrough, that's also a well-known technique you can use. But yeah, it's a little bit like gebruikersacceptatietest,
User
user acceptance
acceptance.
test, that you really have a script. Go to this, do that. I really am. It's not my preference actually, but because yeah, when you already give a script to someone else, they already know how to use the website. So I would leave it more open. But you can look a cognitive walkthrough up. That's also a very well known usability testing technique.
All right.
Can you name some
And
things I need to watch out for when designing a website?
that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the examples I just mentioned, yeah, it can have a lot of more examples, but use it as a user. Try to not be biased because you were there at the refinement and you know what the um I don't know the English word, but you know what the bedoeling is. How is it in Dutch,
Yeah, what the
in English?
the
Yeah, what the
intention
intention is.
was.
You know what the intention is of the functionality. And yeah, sometimes you forget to look at the functionality with eyes that don't know what the intention is. Yeah, so try to keep it as simple as possible. Maybe you can count the steps someone needs to take to get to their solution, to their endpoint. Yeah, and some of the examples I thought, and there's also accessibility testing, which can be a whole topic of its own, which are also a lot of acceptance criteria you can test. But that's for another time, or find me on LinkedIn.
All right. Now, there was a quick question also from Nayun Young, which was how many times do you
Hi,
conduct
Nayun.
usability testings? But I think you answered that as like try and keep that hat on.
Yeah,
Um,
I think this question is a very good one that you said, Nayung. Nayung, I also know her via Ladies at UX. But usability testing, I want to make clear I'm not talking about usability testing in this presentation, because that is really, when I think about usability testing, I see the whole setting with someone in a room and they will use your application, and there's someone who will ask questions and people are behind the two-way mirror. So that's not what I mean, because that's really something that designers do, and it's also good to do it, of course, especially when they're not designers in the team. But it takes more time, and I don't think that really fits in a sprint. And unless you make a user story for it, and you really make time for you to do usability testing.
yeah. So to
But
sum
you
up,
have to
you're
do that
saying,
as early as possible. Sorry.
yeah. So to sum up, you're saying usability testing is very valuable, especially in the design phase, and do try and do it there. What I'm talking about in UX testing is adding it to a development sprint and keeping
Yeah,
it top of mind as you're moving through a 2 week sprint.
perfect.
All right. Thank you so much. That's it for questions. Although you can reach Kimberly anytime at her email address that she showed there or on LinkedIn. You can keep this chat coming as well. She'll pop back in at the end and answer
Yeah,
any more last minute questions. Thank you so much, Kimberly.
yeah. Thank you too. Bye bye.